You're listening to Make Today Count podcast. I'm Jessica Morari, certified life and career coach, and I will be your host. If you're ready to think better, choose better, and act even when it's messy, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's make today count. Very juicy today. I'm not even going to say hello because there is so much that I have to share about this topic, and it gets me really excited. My friend, welcome to a new episode of Make It Today Count. And this week we're going to talk about money. So take your spreadsheet out. No, I was kidding. We're going to talk about money mindset. Now, not everyone enjoys talking about money and they feel kind of uncomfortable when I say the word money. It's kind of a taboo for many people and in many cultures. In my case, I love talking about money, mostly because I find it such a fascinating topic and I always like to observe how people react when I bring it up. I think that relationship we have with money says a lot about our personality, our mindset, and about how we live life in general. Because money is never just about money. It's about your identity, it's about your safety, it's about what you believe you're allowed to have and be in life. So I'm going to start from the basics, and I'm going to start by saying that when we talk about money mindset, we basically talk about what you think, what you feel, and what you believe about money. It's your emotional relationship with money. It's that unconscious set of rules and the stories that you've learned early in life and probably never questioned. By the way, I'm going to use the word money a lot in this episode, so we all get used to talk about it without shame or guilt. So what you think about money and how you feel about it affects so many things in your life, much more than a simple number in our bank account. It influences how much you think you can earn. It means how much you feel comfortable charging if you have a business. It means that you might negotiate or not your salary, or it also influences how you save or how you spend your money and the opportunity you believe are possible for yourself. I mean, that's a lot of things influenced by a single piece of paper to which we've attached a symbolic value. There are many people who talk in great depth about this topic, and I'm going to leave some reference in the description so you can explore more. Before we get into the types of money mindset and money personalities, I want you to stop for a minute and take a moment to reflect on a couple of things. You can pause this episode if you need to. These are the kind of questions that I would normally ask to a client if we were in a session and talking about money mindset. So first of all, I would ask you, how do you feel right now that we're talking about money? What comes up for you? Do you think that making a lot of money would change you as a person? Do you attach any meaning to having more money? Is it good? Is it bad? And how proud are you of how you're handling your money right now? These are just example of questions. I promise I could stay here for like 5 hours asking you questions about money mindset. But the point is that I want you to start asking yourself questions about this. I want you to become more aware of what goes on in your brain when it comes to money. Now the seed is planted, so we can go on while our subconscious works on the background. So when it comes to money mindset, well, actually, when it comes to mindset in general, there are two main approaches, two main mindsets. Those who think there is never enough and those who think there is always enough. And if you look at both perspectives, it's easy to understand that on one side, you have a scarcity mindset, there is never enough. And on the opposite side, you have an abundance mindset, there is always enough. It's important to clarify that there isn't a right or wrong mindset. Both have positive and negative aspects. What matters, as always, it's what works for you, for your goals, and for the vision you have for yourself. As I said, a scarcity mindset is when you think there is never enough. In general, you have a tendency to accumulate and to hold on to money. So, as I said before, the money mindset is not just about money, but there's a lot about identity. So you can easily recognize that people with this kind of mindset also have a tendency to hold on to things. They hold on to feelings, they hold on to situations, even to people. But what's interesting about a scarcity mindset is that it can result in behaviors that are completely opposite. So, as we've seen, on one extreme, you have a situation where the person becomes a hoarder. So, you accumulate money just for the sake of it because there is never enough. You become a compulsive saver at the expense of anything else. What's interesting as a counterpart is that sometimes the scarcity mindset can also result in excessive spending because you tell yourself this is not going to last. It's not going to be enough. So I better spend it now that I have it. And that's why many people seem completely unable to save any money and they even struggle to enjoy what they have because they're always afraid it might end soon. Their happiness is quite volatile because moments of joy are never lasting. I mean, this is so fascinating. This is a piece of paper. The positive side of having a scarcity mindset is that you have a tendency to be quite careful and frugal with money. What we have at the opposite side of the table is an abundance mindset. And people that have an abundant mindset tend to be much more relaxed about money. They come from a place that no matter what, there will always be enough. So they're not afraid of spending. They're not afraid of being generous with their money or giving gifts. And actually, giving can be their love language. They usually have a strong belief in their ability to generate money and value, of earning. And also they know there is enough money for everyone. It's not like a win or lose game. There is for everyone. It can be a win-win. And I want to stress something that I haven't said yet, but I think it's extremely important. Your mindset, your money mindset, is not determined by the quantity of money you have or you make. You can be very wealthy and have a scarcity mindset, and you can have barely anything material in life and have an abundant mindset. Because as I said, mindset is connected to what we believe and how we feel about money. This I want you to digest it because sometimes we think that we have a scarcity mindset because we're not making enough money. Every time this thought comes up, I want you to come back and listen to this episode again, please. Of course, as everything in the human realm, it's not black and white when it comes to mindset. So we usually have both mindsets and they mix and they blur, and one usually comes up more predominantly according to the situation and the time of your life. As I said before, there are many experts talking about money, and some of them have given their own names to the personalities, others calls them archetypes, some have added more profiles, and others tend to simplify the categories and just have 4. I have read and studied a lot about this topic in the last few years, and the categorization that I'm going to share today is what I found to be the most complete while keeping it simple. So I will walk you through 6 personalities when it comes to money. Again, you might have a predominant one and some traits of the others might jump in now and then. So the first profile is a saver. If you are a saver, you want and feel the need to save money for the future. Your main focus is to create a fund that can make you feel safe if anything happens. You might find yourself thinking of saying things like, you never know what can happen. And I can clearly hear my mom's voice when he says this. Something unexpected can come up, or better safe than the sorry. You have a clear tendency to be quite cautious with spending. So you usually put the future comfort, that financial safety, before your present pleasure. You avoid impulsive purchases or compulsive spending. But the downside of this money personality is that you can get to feel real fear at the thought of spending. And often, after spending money that might even be for something that was necessary, you can feel shame or guilt or even regret. And of course, you can also miss out on lots of opportunities because you're too afraid of spending and investing in your present moment that you miss out on an experience or a treat or a trip, anything that can make your life even more worth living at the moment. I have been a huge saver for most of my life, and that really had an influence on many things. And I can't tell you the freedom and the liberation I felt when I started working on my money mindset and operate more and more from a place of abundance. That doesn't mean that I spent like there's no tomorrow at all. But that means that I'm able to recognize what I'm thinking, and I can decide consciously if what I'm thinking about money, it's being useful to me in that moment or not. So profile number 1 is a saver, and the counterpart of the saver is the spender. So if on one side we have the saver who wants to save as much as possible, on the other side, the spender wants to spend and really struggles to hold back when it comes to spending the money. If you're a spender, you're very likely to do compulsive purchases, mostly not out of necessity, but just for the sake of it. Many times this behavior is linked to something much deeper. Actually, every personality is linked to something much deeper. We've said that before. Money is never just about money. So this behavior is often linked to the urge to fill a void and to feel better. It's another way of buffering and compensating something else which is not giving you what you need from an emotional perspective. It's very common to see this pattern in clients that are struggling with their self-esteem or that feel alone or not seen or not loved. That's their way of coping with the uncomfortable emotions that they are feeling. So usually when we stop to listen to and give space to those feelings and take time to sit with them, we can start redirecting focus. They learn to reframe what money symbolizes for them. The risk with this personality is that you might not be able to reach any financial goals because you're very focused on the temporary, immediate pleasure instead of the long-term win. The third profile is quite interesting because it might be mixed with the spender, but it's slightly different, and you will understand why. So this profile is the status seeker. It's someone who's an overspender, and the important trait of this profile is that, yes, you have the same approach to money of the spender, so you don't hold back from compulsive purchases, but you do it above your current possibilities. So you basically use others people's money. You tend to live your life above your means, which means that in order to match the lifestyle you want, you need to rely on credit cards, on loans, on installments. You really feel at ease and comfortable with being in debt, and you're not concerned about paying it back. All of these, as the name of the profile says, it's because you're seeking status. You're seeking recognition from others. You want people to think that you are wealthy or you have a certain status. Now, the risk of this personality, as you can imagine, is that if you keep this behavior, this spending routine for a too long period of time, you can get in trouble. The financial burden becomes unsustainable. And when you realize it, it might be too late and you need to resort to extreme solutions to try and redirect the situation. Usually, when a client of mine fits this profile, the thing we need to work on the most, apart from the financial side, is to reframe their definition of success, because 99.9% of the times it's a borrowed idea of success. And also we need to do a deep work on their self-esteem, because we need to really separate the worth of the person from the external validation. Profile number 4 is the monk. And the name is quite evocative because usually people who have these predominant money mindset see money as the source of all evils. You believe that wealth, money, and anything that relates to it is corrupting. So as a result, you reject it as much as you can. You might feel guilty about accepting money or about asking for it because you are afraid that people will perceive you as greedy, and they will wrest that kind of spiritual and elevated soul side that you're looking for. This personality is quite common in people like helpers or for creatives or for anyone who chooses what we call a vocational career. And I've seen it in infinite occasions in the well-being sectors. You have the belief that because you want to help people, you shouldn't be asking money for it. Or if you do, it needs to be discreet and disguised. And it's very easy to spot because your services are extremely cheap. to the point that people even doubt about the value of it. And you completely avoid using words like cost, price, investment, and instead you use words like energy exchange, donation, and whatnot. The next profile is the investor, someone who has understood the game of money and see it as a tool to grow and expand and multiply the opportunities. If you have this money mindset, you are very focused on building your wealth rather than accumulating or spending or avoiding. Investors know their numbers, they know their financial goals, and they are constantly learning about building their assets and making money work for them. Because they know the rules of the game, they feel comfortable investing and taking calculated risk. This is the profile that, among all the others, usually has the stronger financial systems with diversified source of income, diversified investments, and a solid structure to sustain them in the long term. And finally, my favorite, I have left this for last because I find it quite interesting. The last main personality is the avoider. Literally, you don't care about money. You have a total lack of interest or concern towards all things money. That has never happened to me, and that's why I find it so fascinating. If you are indifferent to money, you will most likely have no idea about your financial situation. You don't know how much money you have in the bank. You don't know how much money you owe to the bank, which are your expenses, your incomes, etc. And of course, at some point, you have no financial goals. So you kind of live pay to pay and you're totally fine with it. It's like if there was no past or future in your financial picture, but the present moment. Now, when I say that this profile is indifferent to money, it might not be entirely true. And there might be an underlying fear of actually getting interested in your money situation. So when you think about money, you might feel stressed or overwhelmed or even anxious. And that's why you avoid it. It's like when you wipe everything under the carpet and pretend it's not there. Actually, I'm telling you, the more you avoid it, the less control you have on it, and therefore the more overwhelmed or anxious you can become when you actually need to take care of your financial health. I like this. Financial health. So let's land this. I know I shared a lot of information and juicy stuff, but if there's one thing I want you to walk away with, it's this. Your relationship with money, it's not fixed. It's not a personality carved in stone. It's a pattern. And patterns can be questioned, they can be stretched and completely written again. The point here is not to become perfect with money. You're not going to suddenly turn into a spreadsheet loving financial guru overnight, although I highly recommend a little bit of spreadsheet action. The real focus here is to build a relationship with money that actually supports the life you want to live. So take what resonated today and sit with it. Play with it. Get curious about it without any judgment and with a lot of love towards yourself. You're figuring it out now. That's enough. If this conversation sparked something in you and you feel like you don't want to do all this work alone, which can be quite overwhelming, I understand it, that's what I'm here for. I will leave you a link in the description where you can book a free discovery session with me. It's going to be an informal chat with no strings attached where we get to know each other and understand how I can support you to become better with your money mindset. And on that note, I'm going to give you an appointment next week. And remember, make today count. Ciao.